All right, joining me now is the president of the Center for Security Policy, Mr. Frank Gaffney. Thanks for joining us, Frank. So what do you think? Does the, on Friday, as soon as Mr. Obama went to the podium and said, hey, look at what we did, we killed al-Awlaki, I came out and said I think he shouldn't be taking that victory lap without at least acknowledging, the Bush infrastructure. And I took a lot of heat for that. But now Mr. Cheney comes out and says he owes the apology card. He says, no, does the Obama administration at least owe a tip of the hat to Bush and Cheney?
Well, clearly, there's a very strong record of waging war that was established by the Bush administration, that this president, having criticized it before he came to office, has now in large measure, not entirely, but in large measure decided is in fact necessary to protect the American people. I must tell you, though, Eric, I'm more concerned about the apology that I think is coming becoming necessary from the president for what he is in the process of doing. We haven't had the full weight of it come down on us yet, but we will, and that is for the steps that he's taking to eviscerate. I'm not even going to go to just hollowing out the military, to eviscerate the military of the United States. And these drone strikes, they're important in their way, but at the same time that that's happening, the administration is acting in a manner that I think is going to leave the American people vulnerable to far worse than what happened to us on 9/11. And it'll be late at that point for apologies. But I think that before we get to that point, we ought to be taking the kind of corrective action that evidently in some of these other areas he's seen necessary.
Frank, take a listen to Mr. Obama about that defense budget that you point out. Listen to what he had to say.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about the defense budget is it's so big, it's so huge that a 1% reduction is the equivalent of the education budget.
So there he is. The nice thing, it's so big I can cut it to pieces.
The nice thing, yeah. It reminds me of that line that he gave to Joe the plumber about redistributing the wealth, except the difference is, of course, here, you're not just giving one American's money to another American. You're talking about taking money from the military and the forces that keep us all safe. And the really worrying thing is when you hear the president make these kind of glib statements and in much the same way announce that he's going to cut another $400 billion over and above what Bob Gates, his own Secretary of Defense, had thought was acceptable. And then on top of it, we're now looking at maybe another $600 billion on that. You're talking about, as I say, really ensuring that our troops do not have the weapons they
Frank,
need
not a lot
to
of
protect
time.
Ourselves and them.
About a half a minute or so. Where do you think the cuts are going to come from?
I think they'll wind up ultimately probably taking them mostly from the modernization of our military's arms. Most of those programs are already being greatly reduced, and they'll probably all go away. We'll probably also see them breaking faith with what the troops have earned in the way of benefits, health care, pensions, and the like. All of this is going to have the effect, I'm afraid, Eric, I hope I'm wrong, but I'm afraid it will break the United States military, and then there will be some very strong apologies due indeed.
Frank Gaffney, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, has the president changed his tune?